I'm very pleased to be invited here to Pittsburgh, an architect, planning director from a small country far away. And to be sure that you really know where Malmo is located, I would say that it's somewhere quite far away in Scandinavia. It is, how do I get the pointer here? No pointer, okay. You can see the red dot, hopefully. That is Malmo. Malmo is located in a cross-border situation close to Denmark, and that is very much what it is concerning, how interesting this is to be in a cross-border position. I read through some of your documents here in Pittsburgh, and I will say that I'm really impressed of what you are going into. It seems to me that the process that you are arranging now is really, really interesting. And yeah, good luck with that, I will say. You will need it, and we have worked with quite the same thing for many years now. And I will share some knowledge with you, how we have worked in Malmo and what we are doing now. So for us, and the same in Pittsburgh, I think, the crisis. In the beginning of 1990s, we lost 28,000 job places. The shipyard went down, the textile industry moved to Portugal, and the mechanical industry totally failed. So that was really a crisis. Due to the cross-border situation, we saw some possibilities. We created the new region. We invested, or we, the national level, invested a lot in infrastructure. We got the new bridge, and today, between Malmo and Copenhagen, 100,000 people are commuting every week. So that is a very strong force. It is driving us economically very, very strong. To measure the crisis, you can see there's one building crane on the picture here. That crane stood in Copenhagen and was used for bungee jump. So that was really, really difficult recession. Today, we can look forward to next step in the region, and that would be the tunnel between Denmark and Germany. And that means that Malmo is 330,000 inhabitants, approximately. Scania region, 1.2. Öresund region, 3.8 million. And when we have the new link to northern Germany, we will be 8 to 10 million people along this railway. So the most interesting examples that we can show from Malmo is the Western Harbour. We formed a vision for the city, and we have 3 key projects. One was the Housing Expo, and you can see the turning torso, which is the new symbol for the city. The old symbol, the building crane from the shipyard, is now torn down and exported to Korea. And this district is the first climate-neutral city district in Sweden. 100% renewable energy sources, locally produced. We're using the aquifer and the limestones, windmills, and so on. So that was one key project. The other one was the university. And the third one was a strategy for the public spaces. So this was visionary-led, and it was politically led. And I mean, this is very important, to have a strong mayor. You have that in Pittsburgh, and we have that in Malmö, Ilmar Reepalu. He was an architect as well, and sometimes I think that was very good for me. So this political leadership is very, very important. And we established a planning philosophy. And I would say that we cooperated a lot, and also we have experimented and experimented. Most of the time it went well, but not always. But we did it, and I think that's very important. And the politicians, they need to trust all the departments and give them a lot of trust to do things. Visions is important. We are still delivering visions, and I think it's important that the city shows that they have visions for the city. The market like that. Sustainability, that's the key question for us. That was the mindset. The whole process that we arranged is around sustainability. But sustainability changed. In the beginning, it was mostly stormwater management, green space factors, and so on. Then we now stick to the Brundtland Commission. We are using the financial, the social, and environmental aspects. The picture shows ecological, but I think you should say environment, because that's a broader perspective and that suits better. So we are always using this three at the same time. Sometimes you can say that the environment is the fundament or the base, the economy is the tool, and the social sustainability is the goal. There's something in that discussion, I mean. So we have also made a commission, so we are more focused on social sustainability today, and also in a value-based driven planning system. We always thinking of what values or what qualities should a project add to the city fabric as a whole, and that is really important. The new master plan is cultural and democratic arena, of course, and as you see those dots here, I would say this is the old way of planning. Everything is in its own place. This is where we are today, but we have to go into that, what I'm calling the spaghetti city, where everything is very much connected to each other. The mixed and green and dense city, that is really important. So the new comprehensive plan is a densification plan. We shall work with a city that already exists, which also means that social sustainability is easier to work with. So we shall densify with what really is missing in the different districts in the city. We will also work with infrastructure, establish a new tramway system, establish a new infrastructure ring around the city, and use infrastructure to create planning, to develop the city as a whole, to connect the different parts of the city, so the city will be a city for all. The Commission for Social Sustainable Malmo is, we are influenced by Sir Michael Marmot. He did that on a global level. We have done it on the local levels, the city of Malmo. And the differences in health is really interesting to look at. And for example, life expectancy in Malmo differs 7 to 8 years, 7-8 years between Eastern and Western Malmo. It differs 50 years on a global level. I don't know how it is in Pittsburgh, but that's not fair. And how could we, with spatial planning, correct that so the city would be more fair and equal? And I consider I was a part of that commission, and I'm so convinced that the planning questions is one of the key questions to create a social sustainable city as a whole. The third document that we are working with is the climate strategy. And this climate strategy says that with 2030 should be carbon neutral. That's not easy, I would say that. We are consuming too much energy. The cars are consuming too much energy, and so on. We are moving around in the city in stupid ways sometimes. 50% of all car rides in Malmo are shorter than 3 kilometers. I think it's the same in Pittsburgh. We shall use biking and we shall walk, and that's also cost effectively for the city. People get healthier if they walk and bike. So we are now reorganizing the city for the 4th time, I would say. And that reorganization is to link the city together as a whole, to bridging barriers. This is an example in a large-scale area where we are going to transform the large roads to city-like streets and building houses and mixed use along this street. And at the same time, empower the people, get the people to be a part in the process. Some Nordic perspectives in that. The Economist has written about the next supermodel. Probably you have heard about that. I don't really know what they are meaning of, but there's something in it. And we are investigating that in the Nordic City Network. You can go into the website and see everything what I'm talking about now. I'm the chairman there, and I mean, the modernistic way of planning a city, that's more or less a functional city, but you had to add new layers and new dimensions on that. One layer is the attractivity, another layer is the innovation, And the third or fourth layer, if you say so, is the cultural layer. Culture, the glue between people, not only the cultural institutions. I would say that the glue between people is much more important than the cultural institutions. We have investigated 450 different projects in our countries, and we have seen 8 different theses or trends. The cities in the northern are quite small. They have to be clustered in regions so they could compete. We are quite innovative in business strategies. We are taking well care of the public spaces. And there are some tricky things about these public spaces, and that is that they should be public. You shouldn't privatize the public spaces. That's dangerous if you are talking about connectivity and social sustainability. The welfare institutions, and also use the welfare institutions when you are building the buildings. Using the buildings, put them into the right place so you are supporting the development of the city as a whole. And that's something that you could regulate from the municipality itself. Culture as the glue, as I said. Infrastructure, using infrastructure not only for transportation, also use it to get connectivity and social sustainability. The knowledge of the people, use it, and also the green, the parks and the ecosystems into the cities. I will give you some examples. When I'm working now with the national policy for architecture, I came back to this, the citizens as the asset, the knowledge that the people really have. That is something to take care of in a process like the process you should go into now, and we are into in Malmo. The line is one project that we are doing with the enterprises around this line. There's 6,000 people working. They don't meet each other so much. So the purpose of this project is to get people meeting each other every day so they could create some new innovations. And that was not possible in the old way of working, but it is possible in the new way of working. And we have something that we call the fourth urban space, and that is how the public spaces is collaborate or supporting the first floor or the ground floor in the buildings, how the interaction is there. And I would say that we are also strengthening this process when we are investing in a new concert hall in Malmo. So when the municipality like to do something, they can show the way, and if the municipality is investing, the market follows after. So now in this area, we have 200,000 square meters that being built, thanks to the investments from the city. The next example is in a large-scale area. Some young girls came to us and said, we have no place to be. The boys are everywhere. And this is another part of Malmo. Malmo is a dense, small city, but the mental distances between the western and the eastern part is very, very long. So we started a project, and the background to this is that when we are linking the city together, we are trying to find spaces and green parks and so on to connect the city and make it interesting to walk. And so we started this project with the girls, and we saw who uses the public spaces, the boys with skateboards and footballs, and the girls, they have to do something else. So we started to facilitate the process. We took the ideas, we didn't do specific ourselves something, we didn't add something to this, we just facilitated the project, the process. And the result is something really fantastic. Some new place, we couldn't invent it ourselves, but it is focused on culture and dance instead of sports. Really, really interesting, I would say that. Listen to young people, listen to the people. This is how we now discussing young people's living. 71,000 young people has been involved in this process, thanks to the web. Policies and other things. I would say I think I have a wonderful job. because it's so complex and it is so interesting. And I think you think so as well here in Pittsburgh. And I would say all the best to you. And we need some new ideas. We need some new instruments. We have to have processes that are holistic. We have to create consensus with the people, with the market. We have to use spatial organizations in a good way. And that means that we need policies. And I said before that I'm working with the national policy now, and this is how I feel when I'm working with that. It's really demanding. So I will say thank you very much, and that was everything from the priest today.
You stand there. What would you say in a country where planning has to some extent been overtaken by other forces in society? Because in Sweden, your job is, I don't want to say it's easier, but it's in a way more effective because of the traditional effective, the power structure of planners that has been shown to be effective. How would you advise Pittsburgh and other American cities to use planning when it's not necessarily so embedded in the power system as what you have access to?
Well, I think that's a tricky question. The main advice is that you have to share a vision. You have to know the conditions, and you have to know what should you meet with your planning and with your vision. And you have to have consensus about that, both with the people in the city. So that process is extremely important, because I'm quite convinced that the people will not accept anything that they really aren't a part of. So that's one thing. And of course, all stakeholders, the market, the real estate companies and so on. But stick to the vision and be honest with that.
Would you say, I think you will, but help us understand why you might say sustainability is good for society and good for urban planning in general, rather than a block on development? How do you interpret that boundary?
Yeah, I mean, sustainability, you can't say anything else. That is the crucial question. I mean, we should survive on this planet. I think we should. And that's why we have to really be agreed about sustainability.
But you think can sustainability be a kind of incentive to quality of life? Absolutely. Or is it somehow a block on human development, would you say?
Sure it is. And when I'm discussing with young people, they are very, very much more into this sustainability aspect. Right. They will not accept anything else in the future. Do
you think you're going to want to stay involved in this process as we go forward?
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Okay, see you next time. Thanks, Krista. Yeah.